All right, there we go. All right, good morning, everybody. I am here today with a friend of mine that I met some years ago in my days with Coldwell Banker. But Sean Carpenter is a seasoned real estate professional with a rich background in the industry, which is one of the reasons why I asked him to be here today. He's been licensed since 1998, has an extensive history with Coldwell Banker King Thompson, and his roles include being the director of training and development for NRT Ohio. And for those not familiar with NRT, NRT is a corporate branch of the, it used to be Realogy, and now it's Anywhere Real Estate. And so they are the big conglomerate that owns many brands in the industry, but Coldwell Banker being one of the biggest, and NRT is that right arm of the company. So they're company-owned stores, and so he's the director for the Ohio NRT companies. And he's also the founder of Sean Speaks, LLC. So where he demonstrates his expertise in real estate coaching and training. So welcome, Sean. I appreciate you being here with me today and taking the time to give me some insights on the market.
Good to be with you, Paul. Always fun to talk about our industry and the people in it and how we can help the people that need our support.
Yeah. You know, I've been to so many of your presentations, and of course, you know, we see you showing up at different conferences all around the country. You're in high demand for, you know, being a speaker or a moderator, and so I love that about you, and I love running into you every time you come into Orlando. I think it's a wonderful thing. So how did you transition from being a licensed realtor to a renowned coach and speaker in the business?
Yeah, so my evolution, I'm still a licensed realtor in Ohio. I just have moved through a lot of different seats in the industry. You know, I started as an agent back in 1998, worked pretty hard as an individual agent for the first 4.5 years in the business. Couple of years into the business, I was given the opportunity to become an assistant manager in our office, which at the time, Paul, meant that I was still an agent. I was still primarily focused on building and getting my own business, buyers and sellers, but I was able to assist the manager with some training, with some meetings, with some recruiting visits, really just was there to help answer some of the surplus of questions and needs that came along. And I got a very small stipend on that, but I got to sit in the leadership meetings and kind of watch what was happening with the company, and really started kind of becoming an opportunity to become a little more of a leader in the office. As time went along, a branch manager position opened up. Our manager was leaving the company, and they asked me to step into that role, which was a decision I had to make, because the good part was that I was going to get a paycheck and benefits and a salary. The bad part is I was going to have to stop selling because we were non-selling managers there. And so where we were in our life, you know, my wife and I, we just had our first child, so to have a paycheck and have benefits as an independent contractor sounded like a pretty good idea. Not selling was a challenge, but I wanted to get into a leadership role. But Paul, as you know, in your when you're a manager, you might not be selling with buyers and sellers, but you're selling every day, aren't you? You're selling the industry, you're selling the company, you're selling the office, you're selling the sales meetings, you're selling the technologies and tools and affiliate partners that you have. And so I did that for 2 years. And in that time that I managed the office, you know, we grew our office. You know, the recruiting became my sales, but I realized I loved the coaching and training part of the job, and I hated the managing part of the job. So I became the director of education. The president of our company kind of had watched me and watched the way I worked with the agents and grew the office and grew the agents. And so I became the director of education and was given kind of a blank slate to build it the way I saw fit. I was in Columbus. We also had the company in Cincinnati, so I was in charge of both the training platforms in both those cities. And I did that for about 11 and a half years. And over that time, I started speaking around our company. I started speaking at Columbus Realtors. I started speaking at Ohio Realtors. And I started getting invited to other places around the country to speak. And then I just made the decision in 2016 to leave the director of training role, leave the paycheck, leave the benefits, bet on myself, go back to being an agent, to work on my passion of working with buyers and sellers and selling, but then also open up my own company called Sean Speaks, where I got a chance to speak to audiences around the country. And that became a huge passion of mine. You know, if I had to choose one of the two, it'd be speaking, because I get to impact, I think, more people than just one client at a time. But I still actively sell because I think it allows me, Paul, to keep my finger on the pulse of the industry. You know, when I stand up on a stage in front of a room, the fact that I'm still actively selling, the fact that I know what it's like to be with buyers and sellers, high interest rates, low inventory. I think there's some credibility there. And then I added the coaching platform in a couple of years ago when COVID happened, and some of our top agents and teams in Columbus and Cincinnati needed that extra voice and guidance. And our president reached out to me and said, "Would I come back as a kind of an outside consultant?" Because he knew that agents would respect my viewpoints as an agent, as a speaker, and as a national, person who gets around the country to see what's happening in the industry. So long answer to the question, but that's how I've evolved through all the different channels.
Yeah, I think going through all those different channels are what make you a very successful coach and speaker. I mean, you got to have all of that experience, right? It's one thing to be great at sales, and then you become a coach, and it's like, you get out of production and all you're doing is coaching people. You're not keeping your finger on the pulse, like you said. It's so important to stay in this business. That's why, like with my CE and things that I teach, it's coming from real world experience, not only from a former managing broker position and seeing all the other agents what they go through, but I'm going through things on a daily basis as well since I've been back in sales, and so I think that's important to keep you well rounded and keep you on top of what's going on in today's market. Because the one thing I did discover when I left management, I didn't go back into sales right away because I left management in November of 19 and took some time off, and then COVID hit. so quick change of plans, and after a few months, that's when my wife and I decided to team up, go back into sales. We knew that we can do it, so it's like, all right, let's go do that. But it's been as getting back into sales after all those years of being a non-competing manager. It was really different. It was a whole new learning experience, starting over, because things were a lot different in 2020 when I got back into it than it was in 2011 when I left sales to become a manager. So it's good to have that well-rounded experience and then continue forward. So from all of your experiences, now you've been in the market a long time, much longer than me, and I give you a lot of credit for that, because after 20 years, I'm like, man, I'm trying to keep my head above water, because it's like, at 20 years is a long time. So you've been in much longer. But so you've seen a lot more changes, and from your experience, what are the key factors that have significantly changed in the real estate market over the years?
Well, obviously the easy answer is technology, right? How we've grown, the technology and the demand of today's consumers has changed drastically, right? I mean, the trustworthy, I'm going to, reach out to my doctor, I'm going to reach out to my realtor, I'm going to reach out to my accountant, is now replaced by, I'm going to Google, I'm going to chat GPT, I'm going to go to WebMD, I'm going to go to Zillow, and bypass the thing. But the thing that's interesting is, doctors are still in business, accountants are still in business, and realtors are still in business, because the trust factor that we've earned by being in the business for so long, and taking the pre-licensing classes and the CE classes that you teach, Paul, and the things that we can do to become that professional in our business, I think is the biggest change. The need for a professional to help you in a transaction as big as a real estate transaction is, right? It's the largest expense someone's ever going to put on the table, either on the buy side or the sell side, and to have a guide in that journey, I think is critical. But just watching the evolution of the technology from the MLS books, to the internet, to cell phones, to be able to have this in our hand, and access, the fact that I can use this for pretty much 5 of the 6 different methods of communication that I teach agents, right? There's 6 styles of communication, and the only one that can't be done through this is direct mail, right? To get in your mailbox. But even I could get in your mailbox by using an app like Postagram or some other tool to send you something. But I can even get face-to-face on this by doing FaceTime, or by doing, a TikTok or a Snapchat. So the evolution of technology has really got us to where we're at. But once again, there are still agents out there that aren't leveraging technology or AI the way they could. They're not going to be replaced yet. But at some point, the agent that is leveraging the technology and the old school sales techniques of face-to-face, belly-to-belly, relationship building that I'm so focused on, I think will win out.
Yeah, you're right. I think people will always need us. They need that personal touch that help. Some people will always be able to do it without that help. They'll just go online. They'll probably find a home, write a contract, and close on it all online without ever seeing the home, and they'll be happy and fine with that. And that's okay. That's okay. But for most people, they need that help, the hand holding, and so I think that will always be the case.
Listen, Paul, I was walking through my neighborhood here the other day, and I saw a guy in his garage with the garage door up, and he was under his car, and I could tell he was doing an oil change. Right. I went and got my car's oil change last week, and it took me 25 minutes, and I paid $80 for it, but I was done in 25 minutes. Once again,
right.
He may enjoy laying under his car doing the oil change and saving that money, but he's trading it for time. He's trading it for, climbing on a floor of his garage. And so it's, people can do a lot of things by themselves with technology, but once again, choosing the payment versus time factor and quality of work, right? I mean, how many times have you been working on a project at the house and you've been to Home Depot 3 or 4 times for the same project?
Yeah, yes. Even with a construction background, I still have found myself doing that, especially for projects at my house. So totally get that. So with that, the fact that people are always going to need us, and we've had an influx of agents into the business, especially during COVID. And now we're seeing a lot of agents drop out. What do you find in when you get to work with new agents? What are the strategies that you're finding most effective in helping them to get started?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to understand the business you're getting into. It's the real estate business, but it's not about the real estate. It's not about the houses or the apartments or the townhomes or the condos or the multifamilies. It's about the people that live in those places, right? It's a people business. And we just happen to use the widget called real estate as the thing we do. But very early in my career, Paul, I built my philosophy, which you've heard me say many times, but I realized that there's 3 things a successful real estate agent should do every day. And that's build relationships, solve problems, and have fun. Right? If every day you can build relationships, either a new relationship with someone you've never met or deepen a relationship with someone that you've known for years, if every day you can solve people's problems, whether they're real estate related problems or not, if you help people solve problems in their life, when they have a real estate problem, they're probably going to call the person who's good at solving problems. And if you can have fun doing it, it's a pretty good day. And so, yes, I want to get listings. Yes, I want to get buyers. Yes, I want to get referrals. Yes, I want to have more opportunities. But I found that if I build relationships and solve problems and have fun, there's a better chance that I'll get listings and buyers. And so literally, Paul, when I lay my head on the pillow every night, I try and fall asleep by saying to myself, did I build relationships today? Did I solve problems today? Did I have fun today? And you know what?
Yeah.
If I answer yes to those 3 things, it's probably a pretty good day.
It's a good day. Absolutely.
So that's I think the first thing is it's a relationship business. And so who knows you, who likes you, and then hopefully who trusts you, that you become the top of mind answer when they think I need to satisfy a real estate need, right?
Right.
Our business, Paul, is built on problems, right? It could be a good problem.
Yeah.
Someone's getting married, someone got a new job, someone had a baby. Could be a bad problem, death, divorce, downsizing, foreclosure. But nobody moves in residential real estate just to move. Nobody moves just for fun. They move because they are having a good thing, a good change in their life, or a negative change in their life, and then they reach out to a professional like us to do it.
Right. Yeah. And that's you touched on it too, is the having fun part. We all know and understand we got to build relationships, right? And we got to reach out to people and touch our database. And so a lot of people tend to forget about the fun. And that's what I try to help educate newer agents and like treat it like a game, right? Baseball is a game. They go out there and play. They work hard as ever at that game, but they go out there and they play a game. So why not make a game out of real estate? And you do that. I give them scorecards, and it's like, if you score what you're doing, and at the end of the day, you score whatever your goal was, you can feel good about that, right? The sense of accomplishment, because I think that most new agents get discouraged so easily, and you're busting your butt for 30, 60, 90 days, and you're not seeing any results, and they don't understand that results come maybe 6 months or a year down the road, and they keep filling that pipeline.
Well, it is a game, Paul, but at some parts of our business are a finite game, right? There's going to be an end. We're going to get to the closing, but as an industry, when we think of our career, it's an infinite game, right? If we build relationships with people, that we could be their realtor for life, right? I mean, I want to earn that top of mind awareness because, this is just a fact. Every one of my past clients and every one of my sphere of influence and every one of your past clients and every one of your sphere of influence and anyone watching this or listening to this, every one of their people that they have in their tribe probably knows 5 other realtors in their tribe, right?
At
Maybe more,
least, yeah,
maybe
yeah,
more. And so what's going to make someone out in my tribe, the day they think about real estate, or more importantly, the day someone in their tribe thinks about real estate and brings it up, what's going to make them think to say my name and say, you should call my friend Sean Carpenter. You should call my
yeah,
friend Paul Fedynich, right? And
yeah,
that's the infinite nature of the game we play. The finite nature is the scorecard, the tactics, the activities we need to do each day to get to the infinite level of being someone's realtor for life.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, you got to always look at the big picture, the infinite game, because the infinite game will help bring you that finite game. And even then, when you go to closing, this shouldn't be the end of the game
No,
because they're going to
that's
know
why that's,
people. They're
that's why
going
they
to
call
come back
graduation in high
around.
school and college commencement, right? Because you're just beginning the
Yeah,
the next
yeah.
stage.
That's exactly right. So we talked about technology a little bit before you mentioned it and the impact and so forth. Where do you see technology going in the future? And I know that there's no way to predict. And when people ask me about the future, I'm like, well, my crystal ball is always a little fuzzy, so I don't know. But with technology, it is ever changing, and it's changing so quickly. In the short term, what do you see as far as technology going in the real estate industry?
Well, in the short term, I would say patience is the key word because, Paul, we're of an age where, if you watched cartoons or TV back when we were kids, we should have flying cars by now, right? But we don't,
Yeah,
right? We have teleporters, we have the ability to see people, and Zoom like we're doing now from, miles away, but the patience, right? I think everybody thinks it's coming tomorrow. AI is here today, but the AI we know today is going to be much different in 15 years, right? We're on the
yeah,
iPhone 15 now. The
yeah,
iPhone 1 was a pretty damn good tool, right? But
yeah.
the things we can do with the 15 is even better, right? And so I think
Right.
patience to say, let's watch it go. There will always be the early adopters, right? Then there's
Yep.
the big chunk in the middle that waits for everything to be tested out. And then there's the late adopters, right? And so we just have to figure out where we are on that scale. And there are still people that have landlines with dials on them in their houses, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that they're not a viable candidate to buy or sell a house, but we just have to watch what it's going. And then here's much like social media, you don't need to be an expert at everything, right?
Right.
You pick 1 or 2 things you're good at, and then leverage people, technology, and tools, and services and systems to utilize the things you have in front of you. Before we hit record, Paul, we talked about the subscriptions and the tools and the things that we have at our fingertips that we still don't use, right? Most
Right.
people
Yeah.
most people have a beautiful pantry with spices and ingredients from around the world, and we order pizza every night, right? We don't we don't use what's right there in front of us.
Right. Yeah, yeah, you're absolutely right. We can get overwhelmed with the technology, and AI is a big thing right now. And I think I've seen people using it, and I think we have to be careful with some of that stuff because it's I've seen some videos that have turned out really wonderful, but it's all AI. It's not a real person speaking on video. It's an AI created individual speaking from the text, and it might be in your voice. I don't see how that can replace the personal touch of real video, me speaking on a video to somebody that is even more directly to them. I think there's a place for the AI, but I think that we can keep it from replacing us in the real estate industry, and I think that is really that's going to keep it the personal touch. If you want to
Yeah,
build those relationships, that's what's going to be really important.
and I also
Um,
think people's level of skepticism and the anti-establishment is going to cause some people to miss out on some of the good things that are happening, right? People that say, I'll never read a book that was written by AI, I'll never watch a movie that's written by AI, or I'll never listen to music that was written by AI. we use AI all the time. If you listen to Spotify and you put in a playlist for Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and it plays a bunch of good songs for the next hour, you don't say to yourself, well, this was created by a machine.
Yeah.
This just picked a bunch of good
Right.
songs when it works for us, right?
Right.
When our TV guide shows us all the shows that are available to us to watch right now, that's a machine figuring out all that stuff, right? When Google gives us
Yeah.
an answer on is the restaurant we're going to open or not, we don't say it's negative. But if we watch a movie or we watch a school play that was written by William Shakespeare 400 years ago, we don't say, well, this wasn't written by these kids, so it's kind of the
Yeah.
perspective of are you enjoying it? Does it work for you? And
Right.
does it solve a problem?
Yeah, and AI has been around for a long time. So it's not that it's new, it's just that it's newly accessible to the general public. So
Sure.
um but that brings us to the next question on client relationships. What advice can you give to agents on building and maintaining strong relationships with their customers or clients?
Well, patience is another word I'll use. I'll use that word again. You're building a relationship. You're deepening a relationship. You're not going into it saying, "Do you want to buy or sell a house from me?" It's
Mhm.
let's get to know you and the old school Ford techniques: family, occupation, recreation, dreams. The best salespeople ask the most questions, right? And so the more
Yeah.
questions I ask to people, the more I learn about them. The more questions I ask, the more answers I get. So I can ask more questions, so I can learn more and earn that opportunity, right? I mean, you should know your clients' names and their spouses' names, and you should know where they work, and you should know their kids and grandkids and hobbies and interests. So I have lots of reasons to talk to them. If the only reason I'm talking to you, Paul, is because I'm hoping you have a real estate need, you're going to probably see right through that I only care about
Mhm.
you giving me business. But if I ask you about your travels and your waterfront view and your how you doing since the hurricane and what are your kids doing about all those things, then all of a sudden it becomes a human being at the other side. And so the
Yeah.
relationships really need to be nurtured and worked on from a human level so that it becomes a natural. Well, I know 10 other realtors, but Sean's the only one who knows my family. And you know the building of a relationship is, how does my name go to the top of mind more often than you just happening to see a just listed card in the mailbox, right? If,
Right.
if I am, if I'm literally everywhere, and you say I see Sean everywhere, then there's a good chance you're going to see me in your church or your synagogue or your house of worship. You're going to see me at the country club. You're going to see me in the local town. You're going to see me at the school. You're going to see me. You're going to see my signs. You're going to hear my you're going to see me on social media, right? And so it's that long tail approach of I've got to build a database, a network of people from macro to micro who will think of me when they think of real estate.
Yeah, and that includes friends and family too, because like you said, everybody knows so many others that are in the real estate business, and sometimes our friends and family might be a little reluctant to work with us for whatever reason. But I was talking this one story that another instructor told me about. She was getting ready to get her mother into assisted living, and so she went to see her. She sat on her bed and she was talking about her, and they were starting to talk about what they're going to do with the house. And so the mother says, well, go over into the desk there in the top drawer, grab me the stack of postcards. And she did. She brought them over, and it's a stack of postcards, all from one real estate agent that had been sending postcards for years. And the mother's like, yeah, that's the person I want to use to list my house. And she was like, but Ma, this is what I do. So it's kind of like, there's so many distractions and so many things going on in everybody's life. And so I feel, for whatever reason, I think that sometimes our family needs to be
Yeah,
reminded mostly of how we can help them and get them along. And even if they're not in the same area, family at a distance, you can refer them and do some homework and research to get them the best suited real estate agent for their
sure,
particular home. So
sure.
so what are the most common challenges that real estate agents face today, and how can they overcome them?
Time, right? Time management
Yeah.
is a huge challenge. When you're new in the business, you're not sure what to do. You're not sure how to spend your time, and that's where you got to focus on really the activities, right? I always tell new agents, focus on activities, not results, right? It's
Yeah.
about what we need to do as agents, as realtors, even as managers can use the same metaphor, but we need to act like farmers, right? If somebody decided to be a farmer tomorrow, let's say someone left corporate America and they said, I want to be a farmer. Well, they don't have a crop tomorrow. They don't yield a harvest tomorrow, right? If they become a farmer tomorrow, they have to start working their field. They have to start tilling the soil. They have to start removing the rocks and turning the soil, and they still don't have a crop. Then they have to put seeds in the ground, and then they still don't have a crop. They have to water and fertilize and be patient and water and fertilize and prune and water and fertilize and prune. It could take us a long time to bear harvest, and we need to act like that every day, right? We need to put seeds in the ground that could turn into business next week, next month, or next year, right? I mean, Paul, you and I both know, if I told you, if you handwrite a note to a lady down the street today, and I guarantee you she'll list her house with you 2 years from now, would you write that note today? You certainly would, right? Mm-hmm. That's a seed in the ground. Now, that shouldn't be the only touch, but then you keep nurturing that, like your example, a stack of cards in a folder. Or let's take that scenario to the other side. Let's say that family comes in and grandma's passed away and they're not from the area. And yet everywhere on the house is these note cards from this one realtor. They say this is who she probably wants to use because she's kept all these cards. And so the activities is the main thing. The second thing is the schedule, right? The cool thing about real estate, Paul, is it's different every day.
Yeah.
The bad thing is it's different every day. And so if you don't have a system or routine to make sure you're putting the seeds in the ground, you're probably not going to put seeds in the ground. And not putting seeds in the ground one day is okay. 2 days might be okay, but 2 days becomes 3 days, 3 days becomes a week becomes a month. And then you get to the end of the line and you're like, where's all my business? Well, I haven't put seeds in the ground and watered and fertilized them for the last year. So finding a way to put those seeds in the ground early each day so that then the rest of your day, which is different every day, can become appointments, showings, inspections, walkthroughs, closings, client events, and life stuff, right? Taking your kids to school, getting your oil changed, going to the coffee shop, playing around to golf, going to the local, sports events. I mean, that is part of your business as well. And so the activity level and the schedule are the two things I would say agents need to grasp right away about this business, because then they have a better chance of being successful.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely understand that. So one of the things that I look at too with real estate agents is the need for personal growth, and that's done through many different ways. It could be self-directed. It could be taking courses, designations. I'm big on getting designations and certifications and basically all the education you can get. And I know that some people look at it as, well, after a certain period of time, it's like, I don't need any more education. I need to just go out and do, which it has a certain truth to it, right? Okay, you don't want to be a professional student, but you need to go out and do what it is that you're learning. But, I'm in this 20 years, you're in this, 24 or so years now. And what is it that you do for growing and ever evolving in this industry? Because it is constantly changing. So what are the things that you do to take care of yourself?
Let me start with, I guess, a basis or an image, Paul. Picture 5 circles around a clock, so to speak, right? And the evolution of success starts with hearing, right? And when you start hearing things, over time you start paying attention, so you start listening. And then when you listen, you start understanding what is being talked about. And when you understand it, you start doing it. And when you start doing it enough, you start mastering it. But it's when you start mastering things that you realize you better start hearing things again and listening and understanding the changes and the newness and the tools and the technologies, so that you can start doing the new things, so that you can start mastering those new things. But then as soon as you start mastering, you realize I got to start hearing and listening, right? And it's that cycle. And so, to your point is what are you hearing, right? So I love podcasts. I love feeding my brain with podcasts, reading books, reading blogs, going to events, listening to coworkers and peers and mentors. And here's a big one I don't think enough of us do in our business is looking outside of the real estate industry for voices and advice and technologies and trends and tools. The average consumer is going to use or transact a real estate deal once every 10 to 11 years now. It used to be 7 years, but it's moved on to a little longer time frame now. But you know what they use every day, Paul? They use Starbucks every day. They use
Yeah.
Apple every day. They use
Yeah.
Netflix every day. They use Ford or BMW or Chevy every day. And so what can we look at in a Starbucks that says, how could I deliver a Starbucks experience to my customers and clients? How could I make them think of the same way our car drives almost on autopilot from our house to the Starbucks on our way to the office? How do I make them consistently think of me when they think of real estate, the way they think of Starbucks when they think of coffee? And so podcasts and books and conversations like this with other people, just many times just to reinforce that, all right, good, Paul's doing the same thing I'm doing. You know, Carrie's doing the same thing I'm doing. Kathy's doing the same thing I'm doing. That reinforces it. Or, wow, you know what? They're putting seeds in the ground every day, and I'm putting seeds in the ground every week. And they seem to have a more bountiful harvest than I've had. And maybe it's because they're putting it every single day, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I think that people tend to forget, you know, that they've got to keep planting those seeds and then, you know, sowing them and keep watering them and nurturing them. And they have a tendency of forgetting that. So I guess that kind of leads us into success metrics. You know, what kind of metrics or indicators would you that you believe are crucial for somebody to really keep track of and maintain? Because there's a lot of metrics out there, right? I don't think that it's necessary to know or track every metric, but there are some that are probably more important than others. And just as you mentioned too, it's like, you know, going back to other businesses, you know, to seek what they're doing and learn from that. That's, you know, we need to run our business like a business, right? So we can learn from other businesses in different industries to learn more. But as a business that we operate, we should be following certain metrics and look at those metrics and know the difference so that we can, you know, set our plan, work our plan, make adjustments along the way, and so on.
Well, the three things, the scoreboard I like to tell people to look at as a, you know, when I coach agents and their teams is, you know, if you and I went to a baseball game, you know, spring training's around the corner and we sit in the stands and we look up the scoreboard, we're looking at three things, right? In a baseball game, we're looking at runs, hits, and errors. And that's going to tell kind of the story of the game. And in a traditional game, there's 9 innings and we're paying attention to runs, hits, and errors. In our business, we have 12 innings because we have 12 months in the year. And the three things we should be looking at are opens, units, listings, and closings. An open unit is a new piece of business, right? It's a new buyer in contract or a listing that went into contract because it got an acceptable offer, right? A listing is obviously very clear. It's a listing taken, and a closing is a closed transaction. So ideally, a listing that you take, if it's priced right and in good condition, it's going to become an open unit, right? It's going to go into contract. And if everything goes well, it's going to become a closing. And so always paying attention to what's your business looking like? How many deals have you opened this month? Now, an open is different than a pending. Pending is what an open becomes, right? Think of it this way, Paul. If you walked into the pizza shop tonight and looked at the guy behind the counter, he's making pizzas for the next customers, right? Every pizza he's making is an open unit. And then it goes in the oven as a pending, right? And it goes through the oven as the deal is pending, and then it becomes a closing out the other side. But true or false, Paul, in today's market, people are making open business and they're putting them in the oven and they're falling through and burning, right? They're not making it out the other side. So open units are different than closings. Open show us what is coming, right? And open is a good indication of future business, right? And closings is a good indication of successful business. And so agents can look at those scoreboards, those metrics, and say, all right, let's look back and how many deals have I opened this month? And, you know, if you don't have any closings coming up, let's say in the next month, well, it's because you didn't open any business in the last 2 months, right? And so always knowing what's happening, and, you know, so listings taken, obviously there's buyers as well. So you could, I guess if you wanted to, you could add that extra column in there and track buyers, you know, signed up, listings taken, and buyers registered or under contract to work with you. Those are the activities I think are the three main pieces of a scoreboard. And that's what brokers and owners and you know, boards of realtors, they look at to see, all right, here's the business that's open. It gives us an indication of what's coming. Right.
Yeah, that's good. And you know what? That keeps it simple. It doesn't overcomplicate it with all the other things. I know as brokers, we have so many other metrics that we have to look at and compare, but those are some perfect ones for agents
Yeah,
to
and
really
I
just
know there's
track.
coaches out there, Paul, and you might talk about this in your Drew crew. I mean, there's people out there that they track how many calls they make and they track how many, how many letters they send out, and that's fine if you want to really get that microscopic down to that. But that's that's assuming everything is the same every day, and it's
Yeah.
not. Once again, being there at the right place at the right time, being there when grandma passes away, being there when someone found out they're getting a new job transfer. I don't care how many calls you make. Um, if right place, right time, then you're going to win that if you're the name people think of.
Yeah, and that's a good point. The right time, timing comes into play with everybody that we deal with. And even if you get a new lead and you reach them and they don't respond, or they actually pick up at yeah, we're really not interested right now. It is a no, not right now type of response, and that you just have to keep after them and just continually nurture them. But sometimes it's just the wrong time. Sometimes making calls and you're not getting, people aren't picking up, right? Because they don't recognize the number or whatever reason. They're busy. I mean, you're calling people during work hours. They're at work probably, and they're not going to pick up on the call. But it's a matter of catching them at the right time where they can actually sit and have a conversation. So timing is pretty critical on that. So, as far as like motivational and motivation and inspiration, what keeps you motivated and inspired at this point in your career? How can this help others? I mean, I know that, again, after 20 years, I'm looking for ways to stay motivated and inspired, because I get tired, so I do try to change things up. But how do you face that?
Well, by having the systems in place that I do, put my seeds in the ground early in the morning, getting up and doing my 4-H club, my handwritten notes and my happy birthdays and my high fives and my hot sheet, doing the activities I know that are going to lead to opportunities. And really just, when I put my hat on in the morning to, be a farmer, I'm looking for real estate business. I'm looking for speaking opportunities. I'm looking to reach out to my coaching clients and sort of see how they're doing, because I get a lot of, go back to that decision to leave sales to go into management. Being that in that leadership position, being in that mentorship position, being in that relationship position gives me a chance to help other people. And I think at the end of the day, with a servant's heart, if you're looking to help other people, that's fun for me. Knowing I'm going to a city that I've never been to speak to an audience I've never spoken to hopefully impact someone in that room, to build relationships and solve problems and have fun. Going back to a city I've been to or an audience I've spoken to before, knowing that they come back to see me and learn something new, hear it a different way. That's inspiring to me. That's exciting to me. Knowing that someone's going to hear my name, maybe from this interview, maybe from some other thing out there in the internet or a conversation. That's kind of fulfilling to me, is knowing that someone might say Sean Carpenter is a great speaker, Sean Carpenter is inspiring, Sean Carpenter made me, and I go back to some of the first agents I ever trained back when I became the director of education, right? That I helped, that are still in the business, and I see them at sales meetings and I see them at company events and I see them maybe sometimes across the table on a co-op deal. And, to know that I was able to help them. I think about my late father, who was a great teacher for many, many years. And it's funny, him and his father was a great shoe salesman, right? For Clarks of England and Florsheim shoes back in the day. Was traveled around the state of Florida in a big Cadillac and had all the samples in the back. And growing up, Paul, I never wanted to do what my dad did and never wanted to do what my grandpa did. And now here I am after years after they passed away, and I get to do what they both did. I get to teach people how to be salespeople. And so that's pretty rewarding.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said about sales. I think that it does take a certain person to be able to do that, but depending on what you sell, as long as you have a passion for it, I think that that's all that matters, and that passion, is shown, and people pick up on that, right? People can read that, and that's where the enthusiasm comes in, and the I-ism at the end. I am sold myself. I mean, if you've got that passion, that gets conveyed, and that can be conveyed in many different ways, whether you're on a Zoom call with a customer, you're on a phone call. I tell people, look, when you're on the phone, even, stand up and always smile, because somehow that gets conveyed through the phone lines, and people can pick up on that. So,
I think passion is a blend of confidence and competence, right? When
yeah,
you're confident about what you do, when you're good at your job, and when people can see it, hear it, and feel it, it becomes passion, right?
yeah,
And people, they it's a way to earn trust, right?
yeah,
Competence and confidence, and add in the third C, consistency, is how
yeah,
people trust you, right? The
yeah.
knowing and liking part of the business is easy, but it's the trusting part that where people start winning in this business.
Yeah. This has been really awesome. I like to, I appreciate your time, and want to be conscious of your time here today. But I want to just wrap this up with one last thing, and that is, your advice for newcomers. What would be your top piece of advice for somebody just starting out their career in real estate? Because even though we've had the influx and we're seeing people drop out, even when people are dropping out, we're still having new people come in. And then there's also people that have been in here for a few years that are struggling, still trying to get their business up and going. So what kind of advice can you give for them?
Well, go back to the three things I talked about: the build relationships, solve problems, and have fun. That's obviously the easy answer. But here's the answer that I don't think people would expect, but I think it's an important one for people to hear, and that's make more mistakes when you're new.
Mm,
You're so afraid from your pre-licensing classes and from your broker and from anyone else that you're going to get sued, and that you don't do the activities that would
right.
give you the opportunity to learn or to have some success. And so it's, learning the scripts and dialogues and saying them the wrong way a couple times so that I need to say it differently. I need to have
Mhm.
better timing. I need to do it. This has to come before this. And new agents always want to say, I don't like the way I was taught to me. I'm gonna say it my own way. I'm like, well, here's
Yeah.
what I would suggest. Say it the way that they taught you for the first 100 times, and then change it to your own way. Right.
Right.
So making more mistakes, hopefully that makes sense to you, Paul, that I'm not saying go out there and on purpose make mistakes, but putting yourself in a position to maybe not do it perfect, maybe not do it right. If you think about it, doctors I think, have an easier job than we do when you're starting out, because they get to practice on dead people, right?
Yeah.
If they messed up, the person was already dead, right? They get to practice on a
Yeah.
cadaver, but we have to practice on real live people that we want to hopefully hire us to be their consultant, their guide, their advisor. And so putting yourself in position every day to say, did I have enough conversations, and did I schedule enough appointments? That's at the end of the
Right.
day, that's what this business boils down to: conversations and appointments. An appointment gives you an opportunity to possibly talk about real estate.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, an appointment gives you an opportunity to talk about life, right? In our business, we want a listing appointment or a buyer counseling session or a referral opportunity. But in lieu of that, a breakfast, a coffee, a lunch, a happy hour, a pedicure, a round of golf, meeting somebody at the gym gives us an opportunity to talk to them about their life, which the more we talk about their life, the more we have questions to ask. And it boils back down to building that relationship so we can help them.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Sean, this has been, amazing. I'm just like overwhelmed with gratitude that you've taken the time here to be with me this morning and answer some questions and share your knowledge, your wealth of knowledge of the business and what's going on. And I know you've got your finger on the pulse, but not only in your local market, but because you travel around the country, you're getting, all this information from markets all around, and it's very, very helpful. If somebody wanted to get in touch with you, what would be the best way for somebody to reach out?
Well, they can find me all over social media. I'm pretty much on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. So they can easily find me. SeanCarpenter.com is
Okay.
probably the easiest. SeanCarpenter. Or you can go to my blog, carpscorner.net. They'll both take you to the same place. But Paul, I've been blogging now I think my next blog post I write next week will be my 1260th blog post. Right.
Wow.
So think about that
Yeah.
consistency of putting a story out there about building relationships and solving problems and having fun. And so they can find me there. I'd love to come to your association to speak and help your agents learn how to do what we talked about today.
Well, we'll be sure to make sure that all your contact information is in the description below, so that people will have access to it and can easily one click to get to all your different platforms, and make it easy for them. Because I know that after seeing you here today, I'm sure there's going to be people that are going to want to reach out and get to know more, or maybe learn where you're going to be speaking next. And and then rebar camp is one. I try to push agents to go to rebar camp, which is before the conventions. If you have an opportunity to go, you're usually there. And I've seen you at all of them, even in local boards that are just doing a rebar camp and not a big conference. And I'm like, wow, that's pretty cool. So definitely, be on the lookout for that. And again, I appreciate you being here, Sean, and sharing your wealth of knowledge. So
thanks for all you do, Paul. I appreciate what you do for our industry and the people in it.
Thank you. All right.